After the SAT scores came out, Stella claimed she bombed them, getting only a 480. As I was about to comfort her, comments started scrolling across my vision. LOL, what 480? The female lead is a shoo-in for the Ivy League. She's just pretending to have failed to test if the male lead will sacrifice himself to retake the year with her. Only if the male lead passes this final test will the female lead believe he truly loves her. In the future, she'll become the richest person in the country and spoil him rotten. I thought it was all absurd and was about to tell her about it as a joke. But then Stella spoke, her eyes red. Leo, don't submit your college applications. Take a gap year with me to study. Okay? The words caught in my throat. Stella's request was exactly what the pop-up comments had said. Say yes, you idiot. The female lead is a genius. If you don't lock her down now, you'll regret it for the rest of your life. Exactly. She worked so hard pretending to be a slacker this past year just to find someone who would unconditionally sacrifice for her and love her for who she is. A girl who's starved for affection really needs a devoted partner. The male lead has done pretty well so far. This is the last step, you have to pass this test. The comments were still scrolling like crazy, but I felt as if an invisible hand was squeezing my chest. The Stella I knew wasn't a great student, but she was a hard worker. She had transferred to our school for our senior year. We'd actually met once before she transferred. Then she became my desk mate. Felt like fate. We grew closer day by day. Her academic foundation was weak, so I sacrificed my own study time to patiently tutor her. During countless lunch breaks, I explained the same math problems over and over, the ones she just couldn't understand. After countless late-night study sessions, I'd walk home under the stars, just so I could carve out time to organize the notes she couldn't keep up with. She told me she wanted to go to the same university as me. For those words, I ran myself ragged, squeezing every drop of energy out of every minute and pouring it all into her without reservation. Step by step, I pulled her grades up from a 450 to a 550. I watched her scores climb higher and higher. Even when my own grades started to slip because of it, I never once complained. But now, the pop-up comments were telling me Stella was an academic superstar, a shoo-in for the Ivy League. She had only pretended to be a struggling student to test me. So what did that make my year of hard work and hope? Seeing my silence, Stella started to panic. She took an urgent step forward and grabbed my hand.
I'm sorry, Leo.
You worked so hard tutoring me, and I still bombed the test, but I don't know how I'll get through another year of studying without you. Leo, will you do it with me? The corners of her eyes were red, and she radiated a vulnerability, as if she'd been abandoned by the entire world. Seeing her looking so broken, a sliver of sympathy I couldn't control began to surface. Stella's parents were divorced and had both remarried, and they both treated her like a burden. Because of that, she really was a bit sensitive and starved for affection. I felt for her and was willing to do anything for her. But the warmth and support she'd given me this past year hadn't been fake, either. To completely overturn everything I knew about her based on a few lines of text floating in the air, it seemed too impulsive. With that thought, my chaotic mind began to calm down. I took a deep breath and looked at Stella. Where's your score report? I want to see it. The moment the words left my mouth, the expression on Stella's face froze. What do you mean by that? Stella's head snapped up, her tone full of hurt. Isn't it enough for you to know I failed? You have to see the humiliating number with your own eyes and twist the knife in my heart? The comments jumped in to criticize me, too. Why does the male lead need to see her scores? Shouldn't he trust her unconditionally? My heart breaks for the female lead. Her parents divorced when she was young, so she has no sense of security. She just wants to find one person she can count on, and he has to doubt her. I force myself to ignore the glaring text. I stubbornly met Stella's gaze. If you've decided to retake the year, we need to analyze your scores in each subject to create a new study plan. My eyes were locked on her, not missing the slightest change in her expression. What's wrong? Is there some reason you can't show me your scores? Stella's face darkened, her chest rising and falling slightly. Suddenly, she whipped out her phone and jabbed her finger at the screen a few times. Fuming, she shoved the phone in my face. Look, get a good look. Are you satisfied now? On the screen was a screenshot of the official score report. Total score, 480. In that instant, the suffocating tightness in my chest bizarrely loosened. The score was definitely too low compared to her performance during the final push. But at least it proved the comments weren't true. My efforts hadn't been for a complete and utter fraud. I looked up, about to speak. But Stella snatched her phone back, her voice cold and hard. I know. My bad scores are an embarrassment to you. If you don't want to retake the year with me, then don't force yourself. She threw the words at me, and as if she couldn't bear the humiliation a second longer, she yanked the door open and left. Stella. I was about to chase after her to explain when more comments appeared. Haha. The female lead is so smart, photoshopping a screenshot ahead of time. In reality, she's a shielded student. Her scores are so high they aren't even released to the public. She's not running off because she's sad. She's got places to be. Her genius friends from the Ivy League summer program are throwing her a celebration party. TSK. Poor male lead is still blaming himself, serves him right for blaming himself. Why didn't he just immediately agree to retake the year with her? A celebration? An Ivy League summer program? A chill shot up from the soles of my feet to the top of my head. Following the directions from the comments, I quietly followed her. Stella went into a private room at a karaoke bar. A few moments later, I could hear voices from inside. So, Stella, my brilliant friend? Did your little tutor agree to retake the year with you? The guy who spoke was laughing, his arm draped over Stella's shoulder. The others called him Johnny, and he seemed to know Stella well. Stella just smiled coolly. It wasn't the obedient or fragile look she gave me, but an arrogant expression dripping with superiority. What's the rush? She leaned back, settling comfortably into the sofa. He's poured so much time and energy into me, even letting his own future slide to help me up. How could he bear to leave me to study all alone? Just give him a little time. He'll come around. Johnny let out a low chuckle. Hilarious. You really know how to play people. The thought of him working so hard to tutor you, thinking he's some kind of savior for a struggling student, just cracks me up. He has no idea that those hard problems he was racking his brain to explain are less than a warm-up for you, right? A wave of knowing laughter filled the room. Stella seemed to be enjoying the atmosphere, her tone dripping with condescending magnanimity. How else am I supposed to test his sincerity? He's not like you guys. He's not that smart. If he wants to stand shoulder to shoulder with me, he's got to pass a few more tests. A chorus of agreement followed. Someone asked curiously, Stella, you've been pretending to be a slacker for so long. Aren't you afraid he'll get mad when he finds out the truth? Stella paused for a second at the question. But Johnny quickly jumped in. Oh, come on. What's he going to do even if he finds out? With his barely 600 score, the second he learns you're a shoo-in for the Ivy League, he'll cling to a rising star like you for dear life. Get mad? Does he have the right? Does he have the guts? Hearing this, Stella smiled, satisfied. She relaxed back into the sofa. True. He'll be too busy being thrilled to even think about blaming me. Besides, a test is a test, but I'm not going to leave him with no options. On the last day to submit applications, I'll make the decision for him. I'll pick a decent state school for him right next to campus. Yeah, that'll be convenient for taking care of him. I stood outside the door, my fists clenched so tight my knuckles turned white. So, in her eyes and the eyes of these golden children, my effort, my sincerity, and my future were as worthless as dust. So, my entire year of backbreaking work was just another test she had set up for me. So, she had been looking down on me, manipulating me, and even planning my future for me. A future where I would live in her shadow, completely at her mercy. It was laughable. So laughable that my eyes started to burn. Seeing that arrogant expression on Stella's face, a burning desire for revenge ignited within me. I took out my phone. I sent Stella a text. I've made up my mind. I'll retake the year with you. Stella's phone screen lit up. She glanced down, and a self-satisfied smirk instantly appeared on her face. Done. She slapped her phone down on the table. Her friends immediately crowded around. A moment later, an exaggerated chorus of cheers erupted. Damn! Nice work, Stella. He even passed that test. His grades might suck, but you can't deny his devotion. I'm so jealous. That level of loyalty is off the charts. Amid the envious chatter, Johnny threw a wet blanket on the celebration. TSK, what's the point of him saying yes? You can't be sure he'll actually go through with it. Stella looked at him. What do you mean? If you're going to test him to the core. Johnny raised an eyebrow. If you've got the guts, make him hand over his login and password for the college application portal. Then you change the password and lock him out of any chance to back out. That, he drawled, a light, mocking smile on his face, is how you make it foolproof. That's how you prove whether he can truly pass your test. Right? That night, Stella partied hard. I was almost asleep when my phone rang.
Leo, I'm downstairs.
Can you come down? The late summer night air was tinged with a dry heat. The moment I got downstairs, she rushed up to me. Leo, she began, her voice low and just the right amount of hoarse. I had a bad attitude this afternoon. I'm sorry. I shouldn't have gotten mad at you and I shouldn't have just left. It's okay. I get it. Under the moonlight, I gave her a gentle smile. It's perfect, actually. I have something for you, too. As she watched in confusion, I handed her a neatly folded piece of paper. Stella took it, looking puzzled. When she saw what was written on it under the streetlight, her pupils contracted. On the paper, in my neat handwriting, was the username and password for the college application portal. Leo, what is this? I know you need to feel secure. I looked her straight in the eye, my voice low and sincere. So I want to show you with my actions that I'm willing to retake the year with you, with no reservations. Stella's breath hitched. I could see the complex emotions swirling in her eyes, surprise, delight, and the satisfaction of being completely in control. Are you sure you've thought this through? She asked, her voice tight, as if she was trying hard to suppress something. Of course. I took a step closer. The moonlight fell on the side of my face, making my expression look exceptionally genuine. Remember what you said? You wanted to go to the same university as me. I believe that if I were the one who failed this time, you would have given up your admission to retake the year with me, too, right? Stella's body stiffened. But under my expectant gaze, she managed to pull her lips into a slightly unnatural smile. Of course. I immediately broke into a brilliant grin. I knew you'd stick with me through thick and thin. If you weren't willing, it would just prove you don't love me enough. And in that case, I'd have to consider letting you go, you know. The streetlight above us flickered, illuminating the frozen expression on Stella's face. She opened her mouth but couldn't seem to get any words out. I sneered inwardly. Let's just see. After I've obediently agreed to retake the year with you and proven my loyalty, will your acceptance letter to Stanford really become a piece of scrap paper? Can you keep up this act? The comments scrolled rapidly. Whoa, the male lead just handed over his login info? Did he overhear the conversation at the karaoke bar? So what if he did? Knowing the female lead is a genius headed for the Ivy League is all the more reason to hang on tight. This is a great move, playing the long game. Didn't the female lead just want his unwavering devotion? Now his attitude is perfect. Stella will definitely stick by him in the future. The male lead can just sit back and enjoy life. I'm so jealous of him. Picking the right woman is a life hack. A future of coasting is just around the corner. Jealous? I scoffed. Being deceived and manipulated, what a blessing. She could have it. In the days that followed, I acted like the most devout postgrad student. Endless practice tests, constant studying. Stella asked me out a few times. I always refused. Since we've decided to retake the year, we have to make every second count. You shouldn't slack off either. Stella would look at me, seeming to want to say something but stopping herself. But she probably remembered Johnny's advice and was determined to see her test through to the end. She told me, Leo, after the application period ends, I have a surprise for you. But I never expected that. Before the day of the surprise could arrive, Johnny came looking for me. Johnny found me in the school study hall. I was deep in a sea of practice problems when a shadow suddenly blocked my light. Johnny looked me up and down arrogantly, his eyes sizing me up like a cheap piece of merchandise. "You're Stella's little tutor?" I closed my workbook and calmly met his malicious gaze. I didn't stand up. I didn't say a word. My silence seemed to annoy him. He leaned over, planting his hands on my desk, his voice dripping with contempt. "Hey, you know you're a complete and utter joke, right? Stella is way out of your league. She's a genius, a shoo-in for Stanford. She was just pretending to be a slacker to mess with you." He tilted his head, waiting to see me break down. But I just asked nonchalantly, "So what if I know?" The smug look on Johnny's face froze instantly. "Wait, that's not the right reaction." He stood up straight, his brow furrowed. In the original story, the male lead isn't supposed to know the truth at this point. "But you don't seem surprised at all." He suddenly went quiet and looked at me warily. "Could it be you're also bound to the system? You knew all along she's going to be a billionaire? System?" A chill ran down my spine. Thinking of those bizarre comments floating in the air, my body tensed. What system? But Johnny didn't answer me. Instead, he suddenly raised his hand and slapped himself hard across the face. At the same time, the pop-up comments exploded. "High alert! The two-faced rival sees the female lead coming and is about to pretend the male lead hit him to drive a wedge between them. The rival has a system, too. He already knows she's the future richest woman in the country and is trying every trick in the book to steal her. Hang in there, male lead. No matter how much she sides with the rival, you have to pass this test and believe that she loves you." Just then, Johnny stumbled back a few steps. He clutched his face, his eyes quickly welling up with tears. Stella rushed over, caught him, and spun around to glare at me. "Are you crazy? Why did you hit him?" I didn't explain. I just slowly stood up. I raised my hand and, smack, landed a solid slap across Stella's face. "Forget him. I'll hit you, too." The air froze. Both of them stared at me, stunned. I had been wondering what kind of opportunity I'd need to finally tear things open with Stella. My plan was to pretend to pass her test, then leave after discovering the truth. I wanted her to feel regret and self-loathing, to suffer the pain of losing true love. I wanted her to know what it felt like to be played. But I never expected Johnny to hand-deliver that opportunity so soon. Since that was the case, it was my time to perform. "Stella, why did you lie to me?" My eyes turned red, and my voice trembled with rage. "Johnny just told me everything. You were never a slacker. You played the victim, leached my time and energy, all for your ridiculous test?" My voice rose uncontrollably, unleashing all the resentment I'd buried for days. "What do you take me for? A toy for your amusement? A tool to prove your own charm? Who the hell do you think you are?" The shock in Stella's eyes was quickly replaced by panic. She instinctively tried to grab me, but I recoiled in disgust. "Leo, let me explain," she said urgently. "I did lie to you, but it's only because I'm so insecure. I was afraid of losing you, and I wasn't going to really make you suffer through a gap year. I already filled out your application for the closest state school to Stanford. See, we can still be together in the future. A state school?" I laughed, overcome with anger. "I got a score of nearly 600, and you signed me up for a second-tier state school? Is there a problem with that?" she said, sounding completely justified. "I can give you the best life in the future. You just need to stay by my side and support me. Why bother chasing empty titles and struggling so much?" I looked at her as if she were a complete stranger. A bone-deep chill instantly froze all my anger, leaving only an endless, icy emptiness and a dead heart. "Stella." The last trace of warmth vanished from my eyes, and my voice became unnaturally calm. "Didn't you say you wanted to go to the same university as me? Which is why you asked me to retake the year with you." I lifted my chin, a cold smirk playing on my lips. "Fine. I've already agreed to do it just to be with you. So what about you? Do you dare to give up your admission to Stanford and do this with me?" Stella looked like a cat whose tail had been stepped on. "How can you compare the two? Your regular state school acceptance, you can just throw that away. This is Stanford, A top-tier university. It concerns my entire future. Besides, enough. I couldn't listen to her tired excuses anymore. Since you're not willing, then it's a shame, Stella. You failed my test. I took a step back, putting distance between us. Go on and be superior with your genius friends. Leo, am done playing. With that, I turned and walked away without a hint of hesitation. Leo! Stella shouted as if waking from a dream, instinctively starting to chase me. However, a hand grabbed her arm. It was Johnny. Stella, don't chase him. If he really loved you, would he let go over a small thing like this? A love that can't withstand a single test isn't worth having. Seeing Stella still hesitating, he leaned in and whispered in her ear. Besides, he made this whole scene and never asked for a new password for the application portal. Don't you get it? It means he already accepted your arrangement. He's just posturing now, waiting for you to come back and placate him with an even bigger show of sincerity. Those words were like a magic spell, rooting Stella to the spot. The panic on her face gradually faded, replaced again by arrogance and certainty. You're right. He passed even my ultimate test. He'll be back sooner or later. 2 days later, the college application system closed for good. From beginning to end, I never asked Stella for my login information back. It wasn't because I had resigned myself to my fate. It was because, in those scrolling comments, I had caught a crucial piece of information. The female lead is a genius, no doubt. Even though the male lead only went to a state school with her tutoring, he was able to get into Stanford for his master's. Thanks to the female lead's guidance, even at a place like Stanford filled with brilliant minds, the male lead always excelled and never dropped out of the top 3 in his class. The comments were all praising Stella, but I was full of doubt.
Stella tutoring me?
If she had that kind of dedication, she wouldn't have sacrificed my future for her so-called test. What's more, the comments also said that Stella was busy starting her own company from the beginning of college. Spread thin. How would she have the time and energy to meticulously tutor me for grad school? It was a complete contradiction. The only logical explanation was that those excellent grades were never from Stella's tutoring. They were the result of my own ability. This realization struck me like a bolt of lightning. Over the past year, how many lunch breaks had I sacrificed to tutor Stella? How many late nights had I stayed up? If I hadn't spent so much time and energy on her, I could have gotten a much higher score and gone to a better university. The comments made me realize that maybe, just maybe, I had the ability to get into Stanford all along. I was just being held back by Stella, so I couldn't care less what college she had signed me up for. My decision was already firm. I was going to retake the year, this time wholeheartedly and only for myself. Stella obviously misunderstood my silence. After checking the system and seeing that I hadn't changed the application, she grew even more smug. She even sent me a screenshot confirming the submission, along with a voice message. It's all settled. With your score, you'll definitely get into your first choice. Don't worry, once we're in college, we can still see each other every day. I didn't reply. She sent a second message. I'll take you out during the break. We can hang out with my friends from the Ivy League summer program. You can get a taste of what it's like to be around geniuses. This time, I refused directly. I don't have time for that. I'm studying for my retake. The phone rang immediately. Stella's voice was laced with amusement and a barely perceptible hint of irritation. The application deadline has passed. Why are you still playing games? You were willing to retake the year for me. I know you can't bear to be far from me. She said it with such certainty, as if she had me completely figured out. As if my year of unconditional devotion had become the leash she used to control me. Are you still mad about those tests I put you through? Sensing the coldness in my tone, her voice suddenly softened. I'm sorry. Pretending to be a slacker was wrong of me. But I'm just so insecure. I set up those tests so I could trust you completely in the future so we could be together for a long, long time. I was thinking about our future. She softened her voice, as if coaxing a child throwing a tantrum. Look at the school I picked for you. It's the best one your scores could get into that's closest to Stanford. Doesn't that prove that I sincerely want to be with you? I listened to her rambling excuses and just felt incredibly tired. All of her explanations were from her own perspective. Her insecurities, her concerns, her plans for the future. But she had never once asked, "What do I want?" "Stella," I interrupted her calmly, "do you still want to be with me?" "Of course." "Well, I don't." The moment the words left my mouth, the comments in front of me exploded. Is the male lead insane? He's giving up on a future billionaire? Has he lost his mind? This is definitely him playing hard to get. If you mess around, you might actually lose her. The rival has a system, and if he really steals her, the male lead will have nowhere to cry. Let the rival try to steal her. It'll give the male lead a sense of crisis. Just wait. He'll regret this and come back crying and begging. I closed my eyes, not wanting to see any more of these ridiculous comments. They didn't understand. I had never been more clear-headed than I was in this moment. I said, "Stella, let's break up." I thought, given Stella's personality, she wouldn't keep pestering me. I was wrong. She came straight to my prep school, interrupting my studies. "What do you mean, break up?" she asked, her voice low and tight like a taut string, carrying the threat of a coming storm. "It means what it means. There's a limit to joking around." Her palms slammed down on my workbook, shaking the pen holder on my desk. "Look at me when you're talking." Only then did I slowly raise my eyes to meet hers. "I'm not joking." I articulated each word clearly and slowly. "Now, please leave. You've already wasted a full year of my time. Please don't continue to waste my life." Wasted. Those words seemed to stab her. She gripped the edge of the desk, her knuckles white. "Are you really planning to retake the year? Leo, with your abilities, what good school do you think you'll get into even if you do? Stop dreaming. That's because my previous scores were dragged down by you." "So what?" she blurted out. "Johnny has a system. He already predicted that I'm the future richest person in the country. You don't need to work so hard. If you stick with me in the future and how do you know you're the future richest person?" I cut her off without a shred of courtesy, my tone mocking. "Johnny said so, and you just believe him?" My attitude choked her. A flash of embarrassment crossed her face, but it was quickly replaced by an almost fanatical certainty. I didn't believe it at first, but everything he said came true, down to my exact score on every monthly exam and my final SAT score. Not a single point off. Do you know? Sometimes I can feel that the whole world revolves around me. It's like I'm the protagonist of this world, destined to succeed. You could have been my leading man, enjoying a life of luxury. But if you break up with me now," her voice suddenly dropped, carrying a mix of threat and enticement, "my success will have nothing to do with you." I looked at her quietly. This girl who had once captivated me was now so twisted and deluded by so-called prophecies. The sunlight fell on the side of her face, but couldn't penetrate the darkness that had consumed her heart. "Your success never had anything to do with me. Be my guest," I said flatly. Stella's face turned ashen. She gritted her teeth like a cornered animal. "You don't believe me, do you? Fine. I'll prove it to you. Don't you regret it then?" At that moment, the comments went wild. It's over. The male lead is dead set on breaking up this time. You'll regret leaving her. But still, doesn't anyone else think the female lead is being awful? I actually think what the male lead is doing is great. He has his own mind now. Exactly. Now that Johnny spoiled the plot for her, she's become so arrogant. Does she really think she's the center of the universe? Johnny leaking the plot to her might change the storyline. I feel like the male lead has changed, too. I'm kind of excited to see where he ends up after retaking the year. I ignored the chaotic text and reopened my workbook. The sun was still bright, shining down on the dense formulas, and on the fork in the road of my life. After that unpleasant breakup, I blocked Stella on everything. I threw myself completely into my studies. A 6 a.m. alarm, an 11 p.m. desk lamp, an endless pile of practice tests on my desk. My life was simplified to a straight line between school, the library, and home. There was no one who needed me to explain basic problems over and over. No one to pull me aside for a walk and talk after evening study sessions. No one who needed me to go home late to organize their error log. My time was finally my own. And I quickly discovered, without Stella's interruptions, my study efficiency was shockingly high. The time that she had once shattered into fragments could now be used for hours of intense focus. My life was probably too monotonous, because the pop-up comments became less and less frequent. Perhaps in the eyes of those viewers, a male lead without a female lead storyline wasn't worth watching. That, in turn, helped me focus even more. Time flew by. Finally, it was the day SAT scores were released again. I sat in front of my computer, took a deep breath, and entered my ID number. The few seconds it took for the page to load felt like a century. And then, 1580. I covered my mouth, my eyes welling up. That score was enough to get into Stanford or MIT. The possibility that Stella had so casually dismissed was now, truly and tangibly, in my hands. When the admissions offices from Stanford and Caltech called me, the pop-up comments, as if just remembering me, came roaring back to life. Whoa, what did I miss? I blink and suddenly the male lead got into Stanford. Case closed. His bad scores last year were purely because the female lead was holding him back. No wonder in the original story he could get into Stanford for grad school while helping her start a company. It wasn't because of her tutoring, it was because he had the talent all along. Ah, my boy is so cool. A comeback story all on his own. This is so satisfying. Where are all the people who said he'd be nothing without her? Does your face hurt? The tide of public opinion in the comments had completely turned. Turns out that when you are strong enough and shine bright enough, prejudice simply shatters. Sacrificing yourself for others is a joke. The only true path is to constantly improve yourself. I packed my bags and boarded the train north. But fate is always full of drama. Less than a week after starting classes, I ran smack into them at the entrance to the library, Stella, and a brightly smiling Johnny by her side. Stella's gaze fell on me. First, she looked delighted. Then her expression was replaced by a knowing and relaxed ease. What, after a year of studying, you finally came to your senses? You came all the way to Stanford just to find me? A mocking smile played on her lips, as if she had seen right through my little trick. Johnny fanned the flames from the side. Little tutor, isn't it a bit late to try and win her back? Stella and I are about to get our first round of angel investment for our startup. The future is bright. As for you, showing up now, you think things can be like they were before? Stella put on a show of shaking her head. Too bad. The spot next to me is in high demand now. You can't just come back whenever you want. She paused intentionally. But, if you admit you were wrong, I might consider giving you another chance. The sun was blinding. I squinted, looking at the girl I had once poured my heart out for. I couldn't even remember why I had liked her in the first place. You're overthinking it. I'm not here for you, I said calmly. Ha, tough guy.
Stella scoffed.
Not here for me? Then what are you doing at Stanford? Don't tell me you're just visiting. Or could it be? The amusement in her eyes deepened. You actually did obediently apply to that state school I picked for you last year? You're here now just to stage a chance encounter and give me an excuse to take you back? Leo, you had a whole year and this is the best little scheme you could come up with? Johnny let out a cooperative chuckle. I said, I'm not interested in you, I repeated. I'm here because I got into Stanford this year, too. The air froze for a second. Then, both Stella and Johnny burst out laughing. You? Get into Stanford? Stella gave me an indulgent, exasperated look. You little fool. Don't I know you? You couldn't even tell I was faking it as a slacker. With your intelligence, Leo. A clear voice interrupted her. My roommate jogged over. You left your student ID in the dorm. I was worried you wouldn't be able to get into the library, so I brought it to you. I took it. Thanks. Stella's laughter died in her throat. She snatched the ID from my hand, her fingers turning white from how hard she was gripping it. Johnny leaned in, and the two of them stared at the small card as if trying to expose a lie. But printed on it, clear as day, was Leo Kent, Stanford University, School of Artificial Intelligence. Stella's breath hitched. When she looked up at me, The condescending mockery in her eyes was gone. In its place was a complex, almost unfamiliar gaze. It was as if she were seeing me for the very first time. That look was a mixture of shock, bewilderment, and a trace of wistful regret. Johnny keenly sensed the change in her and started to panic. He stepped between Stella and me. In a low voice only I could hear, he warned, "Since you chose to leave, don't come back and bother Stella. I'm her leading man now. The one who will be by her side when her company succeeds is me. Don't make a fool of yourself." I looked at his face, slightly twisted with jealousy, and found it laughable. Being Stella's leading man? That was never my goal. But the comments exploded. Whoa! Major plot twist. In the original story, the one who helped the female lead build her empire was the male lead. Now it's the rival? What is this development? Are they really over? The rival has a system. He knows she's the future richest woman and knows all the key moments and business opportunities. Her startup will probably succeed even faster. But the male lead got into Stanford, which means he's brilliant on his own. I suspect in the original he was the secret key to her success. Without his support, can she really have a smooth ride? What can a man do? The female lead is obviously the one in charge. The male lead was just an assistant before. Now the rival is the assistant. The result will be the same. When she becomes a billionaire, the male lead will definitely regret it. I stared at the floating text, my heart pounding. So in the original story, I wasn't just a freeloader enjoying the ride. The person who started the company with her was me. If that was the case, why did everyone just assume the success was hers and not mine? A thought struck me like lightning. Was it possible that it was never Stella who made me successful? It was me who made Stella successful? After that encounter at the library, the information from the comments wouldn't leave my mind. I started pursuing a dual degree in economics and management. I absorbed knowledge like a sponge. Without Stella holding me back, it was like a new channel of learning had opened up in my brain. Even at Stanford, surrounded by geniuses, my grades never fell behind. Through the pop-up comments, I learned that in the original story, Stella's startup partners were all Stanford students. Prompted by Johnny's system, Stella had started her company 2 years earlier than in the original story. She had even sought out the same partners. But before I heard any news of her success, I learned from the comments that their team had fallen apart. It's all the rival's fault. He spoiled the whole plot for the female lead. She's completely convinced she's going to be a billionaire and thinks her partners are just lucky to be on her team. So she tests them constantly. It's insane. The other night, she faked being sick. One of the core team members was in the middle of a breakthrough on a key algorithm and couldn't immediately drop everything to take her to the hospital. So she decided he wasn't loyal enough and might betray her in the future, and she just kicked him out. And then there was the time she intentionally leaked fake business secrets to test them. In the original story, the male lead was the one who mediated everything, soothed egos, and handled the real problems, holding the team together. Stella was the face of the company, but the male lead was the real glue and its soul. Now the rival just blindly praises her and suppresses any dissent. Of course, the team fell apart. The comments were still going off. Couldn't wait. I asked a friend for the contact info of the partner Stella had driven away. These uncut gems, cast aside by Stella's tests, were exactly the foundation I needed. A month and a half later, I had assembled my new team. We astutely identified a gap in the AI mobile app market and threw ourselves into development. A year later, Stella and Johnny's startup had made minimal progress. They went through team members one after another, as almost no one could last long under Stella's arrogant tests. Meanwhile, my team, made up of the partners Stella had rejected, successfully launched a blockbuster AI mobile app. Through aggressive growth hacking and a deceptively simple short-form video marketing strategy, we achieved incredible results. The tone of the comments shifted from blindly supporting the female lead to more and more viewers speaking up for me. Damn, I was so wrong before. I thought the female lead was the golden goose and the male lead was just coasting. Turns out the real boss was him. Yeah, in the original story, her viral app took off because of the male lead's video marketing strategy. Without him, her team can't even make a ripple. Then why did only the female lead get all the glory in the original? Just because she's a woman? That's so unfair. She has the nerve to test other people? She was the biggest obstacle on the male lead's path to success. If she hadn't pretended to be a slacker and held him back for a year, he would have been at Stanford from the start. Everything the male lead has now, he earned himself. And without him, the female lead can't even hold on to her main character halo. My business was booming. My network and world expanded, and I started making a name for myself in the industry. One day, I was on the phone discussing a funding round. Just as I hung up, I heard a familiar voice. Leo! I turned around. It was Stella. She stood a few feet away, looking somewhat fragile. Her eyes, once filled with arrogance, now resembled dusty glass beads, holding a look of cautious hope. Leo, I saw the app you guys made recently. It's really good. She twitched her lips, trying to force a relaxed smile, but it only came out as a bitter curve. My time was valuable. I had no interest in small talk. What do you want? My directness seemed to take her aback. She took a sharp breath, finally mustering the courage to speak. I've thought it through, Leo. I love you the most. I was a jerk before. I was being stubborn. I thought you would definitely come back. She took a deep breath, her eyes swimming with heavy regret. I was actually waiting for you, like an idiot. I never thought you would actually leave, but I never forgot you, not for a single day. There's no room for anyone else in my heart but you. The sun caught the reddish corners of her eyes, making her look almost pitiful. But I was no longer the young man who could be moved by her displays of vulnerability. Is that so? I don't think I can pass your tests. I sneered, feeling only annoyance. No more. Never again. Stella argued urgently, a hint of terror in her voice. That was the last time. I just never thought you would actually walk away, Stella. I cut off her confession calmly. It's all in the past. I'm doing very well now, and you should move on, too. Is it because of Johnny? Nothing ever happened between us. Really, it has nothing to do with him, I said flatly. The moment you decided to test my sincerity with lies, it was already over between us. The words fell. The last faint glimmer of light in her eyes went out. Her tall frame swayed, as if she had lost all strength to support herself, and she retreated into the shadows. Another 2 years passed. By the time I graduated from Stanford, I was a well-known young entrepreneur. The team members who had chosen to believe in me had all achieved financial freedom. Stella, who was a year ahead of me, was lost in the crowd, her entrepreneurial efforts having gone nowhere. Occasionally, I'd see news about her in the pop-up comments. They said she spent her days in a daze, nothing like the spirited protagonist of the original story. Her attitude toward Johnny was awful, too. Many times, she would demand of him, "Didn't you say I was the female lead? That Leo would regret it and come crawling back to me? Didn't you say I'd be the richest person in the country?" It was all lies. All of it. I heard she put Johnny through countless tests, demeaning and rejecting him at the slightest imperfection. Johnny could tolerate it at first. But as the gap between me and Stella widened, Johnny's faith in the system's prophecy began to crumble. Finally, after another explosive fight, Johnny dropped his facade and screamed at her, pointing a finger in her face. I thought latching onto the female lead's coattails would be my ticket to success. But you're like this? Ugh, I wasted years of my prime on you. You threw away your own main character halo and now you blame me? I've had enough. Get lost. You're useless. With Johnny's departure, Stella's entrepreneurial journey came to a complete halt. To be honest, with her intelligence and education, finding a good job wouldn't have been hard. But she couldn't accept the fall from grace. Occasionally, I would be at some event and spot Stella in a corner, watching me from a distance for a long time. But I no longer cared. My sights are set on the stars, and she was just a speck of dust left behind on the side of the road.